For years, Egypt Sherrod was one of HGTV's most trusted faces. Warm, confident, and really good at what she does. But in June 2025, everything changed. Right after a Mediterranean vacation, she came back to the U.S. only to find out that Married to Real Estate had been canceled without warning. No heads up, no conversation, just a cold, sudden end. Her public message thanked fans, but her eyes in the video showed a different story. Frustration, hurt, and something deeper she wasn't ready to say. Later interviews showed a tough season 4 full of poor communication, production delays, and decisions that went against her own vision. Still, Egypt stayed quiet about the worst of it, which makes you wonder what really happened. Egypt Sherrod's story begins in Philadelphia, where she was born on November 16, 1976, as the oldest of 4 siblings. Growing up in her grandparents' home shaped her in ways she didn't fully understand at the time. Her bedroom was literally a closet just wide enough to fit her bed. That tiny space planted a dream in her young mind. One day, she would have a closet bigger than the room she slept in as a child. It sounds simple, but moments like that often set the stage for much bigger dreams. As she got older, Egypt studied broadcasting and telecommunications at Temple University, earning her Bachelor of Arts degree. And like many students trying to find their path, she took a part-time job as a receptionist at the university's public radio station. But it didn't take long for her energy and personality to push her beyond the front desk. The station's production director saw something in her almost immediately. He encouraged her to audition for an on-air slot, and Egypt later thought about that moment as the seed that changed her life. One small opportunity opened the door to a dream she didn't even know she was chasing yet. That seed grew fast. Egypt's radio career took her from Baltimore to Philadelphia, then to New York City and Atlanta. Over the years, she sat down with some of the biggest names on the planet. Oprah Winfrey, Prince, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese, just name a few. She became a voice people recognized, trusted, and followed. But even as her radio career climbed, another passion was growing quietly in the background. Real estate. It was a new interest. It was part of her family's DNA. Her relatives were heavily involved in property and investments. And she grew up hearing one message over and over. Real estate is the foundation of wealth. That idea stuck with her. So when she bought a rundown home, fixed it up, and saw the transformation with her own eyes, she got hooked. The radio personality everyone knew was also a licensed real estate agent, sneaking off to property showings while her colleagues went sneaker shopping. That brings the story to Mike Jackson. While Egypt was building homes and building her career, Mike was splitting his time between radio DJ work and construction in New York City. When he first saw her, it was at a nightclub packed with thousands of people. Yet somehow, the spotlight seemed to fall on her alone. In that moment, he felt something so strong. He told security he needed to get backstage because he had to talk to her. Egypt felt the spark too, but she had one firm rule that kept her grounded. Never date someone in the entertainment industry. Still, Mike believed they were meant to cross paths again, and he was right. Their next meeting happened at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Mike was shirtless on a float, practicing for a performance, and Egypt kept circling the float, trying to get a closer look. Just a few months later, they ended up working together on their first renovation project in New Jersey. Even with the chemistry, their relationship didn't start off smooth. Both carried emotional baggage from past relationships, and Mike's ex-wife added even more tension. Things became so complicated that they postponed their wedding to work through the issues surrounding his first child. Egypt spoke openly about how much it affected them, especially as everyone was trying to find healthy boundaries. But Egypt had her own inner work to do. Old scars from past relationships were bleeding into her new one. During an interview for the series Black Love, she explained how the emotional bruises she carried were shaping her reactions with Mike. He eventually had to tell her directly that she was treating him as if he had caused all the hurt created by others. It was a tough moment, but also a turning point. Egypt went to therapy, determined to break those patterns and clear the path toward the future she wanted. Eventually, after working through their struggles, Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson finally tied the knot in 2010 at the beautiful Westmount Country Club in New Jersey. The road to the altar came with one last twist. Egypt slipped into full bridezilla mode, wanting every detail to be flawless. Her mother stepped in with a firm spiritual reminder to slow down and pray. That moment grounded her, and the couple was able to enjoy the celebration they had fought so hard to reach. Their wedding wasn't just beautiful, it was star-studded. Coco from SWV performed the hit Week during the reception, and Q Parker from 112 sang Luther Vandross is Here and Now as Egypt walked down the aisle. It was the perfect soundtrack for a love story built on chance encounters, second chances, and the courage to grow. A little over a year into their marriage, Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson stepped into parenthood together when their daughter Kendall was born in January 2012. It was a beautiful milestone for them. But for Egypt, the experience came with a side she never expected. Motherhood hit hard, and not just in the sleepless night, new baby kind of way. She slipped into postpartum depression, and it quietly shook her confidence to its core. She later shared at the Black Love Summit that she had fallen into a space where she didn't even recognize herself. For Mike, it wasn't the distance itself that was hardest. It was the confusion. He could sense a wall going up between them, but he couldn't understand why it was happening. The toughest part was that Egypt had no idea what she was dealing with. She didn't realize it was postpartum depression until she stumbled across an article that finally made the pieces click. As the years passed, Egypt and Mike dreamed of expanding their family. Their household already included Mike's older daughter, Simone. But Egypt longed for one more child of her own. They tried for 5 long years without success, and frustration slowly crept in. At the same time, Egypt was dealing with the painful reality of endometriosis. The condition had gotten so severe that doctors recommended a partial hysterectomy. She prepared for the surgery, tried to accept that her window for another baby had closed. Then right before the operation, everything changed. She learned she was pregnant. After years of disappointment, it felt like nothing short of a miracle. In February 2019, she welcomed her daughter Harper into the world, healthy, full of life, and a long-prayed-for blessing. But the joy of Harper's arrival quickly shifted into fear. Not long after returning home from the hospital, Egypt found herself gasping for air. She described it as feeling like she was drowning every time she tried to sleep. The situation was so alarming. She was rushed back to the hospital where doctors discovered a dangerous buildup of fluid in her lungs, a complication from her C-section. She later thought about how if she hadn't gone back, she might not have survived. Thankfully, with treatment, she recovered and returned home to her husband and her daughters. Still, the scare changed her life. She committed to a cardio-focused diet, regular medical check-ins, and monitoring for cardiomyopathy, a condition that runs in her family. Now, at this point, Egypt was already a familiar face on TV. Throughout the early 2000s, she'd built a solid presence on HGTV with shows like Property Virgins, Flipping Virgins, and Urban Oasis. Mike Jackson, on the other hand, was the total opposite, pretty much brand new to television. In fact, his whole on-screen journey started almost by accident during the pandemic. While the world was stuck indoors, the couple suddenly found themselves working side by side at the kitchen counter, juggling businesses, virtual school for their children, and everyday chaos. It was a full house. But in the middle of the noise, they realized something. Their daily routine was actually pretty entertaining. Mike suggested they start filming what life looked like behind the scenes, and their social media followers loved it. By 2022, that simple idea turned into something much bigger. Egypt and Mike launched their own show, Married to Real Estate, and viewers connected with them instantly. From day one, the series felt relatable and down-to-earth. Mike later explained that the show clicked with people because they saw themselves in it. Family moments, construction challenges, real-life tension, and genuine partnership. It wasn't just about houses. It was about the life happening around them. The response was so strong that HGTV renewed the show for a second season within months. But just when it felt like everything was finally settling into place, life threw Egypt a curveball she never saw coming. In June 2025, Mike Jackson and Egypt Sherrod returned from an incredible Mediterranean vacation, still glowing from the trip, only to be met with news they never saw coming. Their hit HGTV series, Married to Real Estate, had been abruptly canceled. No warning, no slow build-up, just an unexpected decision dropped right in their laps the moment they landed back in the United States. Even though fans had whispered about a few behind-the-scenes issues, the cancellation still stunned them. Months later, when they finally sat down with People magazine, the truth behind Season 4 began to come into focus. The first 3 seasons had been full of momentum and joy, but Season 4 took a sharp turn. A brand new production team had been brought in, and despite Mike and Egypt serving as the show's executive producers, the team repeatedly overruled their decisions. Egypt explained that for the first time, they didn't feel respected within their own series. But the challenges didn't end there. Egypt revealed that when they reached out to the network for support, their calls and emails were met with silence. This had never happened before, and the lack of communication left them feeling abandoned and unsure of what was happening behind the scenes. Meanwhile, production kept stalling without explanation. Those delays didn't just frustrate the couple. They created real problems for their business. Viewers began asking whether the show had been canceled long before the official announcement, and that confusion threatened ratings and client trust. Mike pointed out how damaging those gaps were, while Egypt added that they were forced to use their own money to continue serving their clients properly. Even with all the obstacles, Mike and Egypt emphasized that their goal wasn't to attack HGTV. They simply wanted to share what really happened. And their fans responded with overwhelming support. And it turns out that new chapter is already off to a vibrant start. In October 2025, Egypt shared a joyful video of the family visiting Niagara Falls, announcing that this was only the beginning of checking off their bucket list adventures. At the same time, the couple revealed that they were shifting their content fully to digital platforms, inviting fans to join them on Patreon and YouTube for everything they create moving forward. Despite the end of their HGTV era, Mike and Egypt are stepping boldly into a new phase, one built on freedom, creativity, and a fan base that continues to grow right along with them.